Hey, welcome to the Zenwaves channel. Welcome to the stream, Zenwaves Live. This is where we go through some news about sustainability from Japan and perhaps share some insights behind the scenes. Sorry for the wait, I think we have some technical difficulties. It's the same problem as last week, really. Because of the Wi-Fi, it's not as strong as we wanted it to be. So we drop it down to, instead of 1080, we are setting it at 720p, and things seems to be good. So let's continue. But before we do, before we begin, I want to say that Japan stands with Ukraine. It's really unfortunate the war broke out. Japan will be holding a protest in Tokyo tomorrow, but we already have Ukrainian friends there in Shibuya since last night. Now, being a country that understands the price of war, we know that this war is tyranny. War is meaningless whether you win or not, whether you protect or lose. War is a pointless exercise, really, where there's only loss for anyone in it, and I hope to see the end of it as soon as possible. Well, the outbreak of the war is affecting me in profound ways, so I will try to keep today's session short. But I think let's refresh the mood, because today is going to be educational again. We are going to find out about how Japan 400 years ago was carbon neutral. I might even say Japan was carbon negative, really. And yeah, I'm your host Roger from Zenbird Media. Zenbird Media is an online magazine that shares sustainability from Japan to the world. If you have been with us, then you know that we are interested in anything related to doing good for the environment or the society. If you are interested in sustainability news from Japan, please consider subscribing to our channel. We are also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Alright, let's get started. Right, so for our first article today, yes, no, this is our second article. So let's start with the first. Growing hotel swag trend. More Japanese lodgings provide green amenities. I like the title of this. I think our editors are doing a good job. Oh, this is really talking about amenities in hotels. If you know that if we want to go plastic free, hotels actually play a big part, because every time we're not just talking about single-use plastics, we're talking about single-use amenities. Shavers use once, toothbrushes use once, and they get thrown away. It's quite a big issue if you think about it. So what can we do about it? Well, as Japan's Plastic Resource Circulation Act will be enacted in April, the nation's interest in circular economy is likely to increase. The Act promotes the society not to generate waste instead of the conventional reduce waste. So we're talking about zero waste here, right? The government's 3R plus renewable policy, which increases the circularity of materials, is expected to impact customers as well as give new perspective for businesses. The tourism and lodging industries are no exception and will be encouraged to integrate the new policy into their businesses and designs. Consumer awareness of sustainable travel has been growing as well. In a recent survey aimed at travelers regarding environmentally conscious hotels, 71% indicated that they received a good impression of the facilities. The lodging industry is well aware of what their current and prospective guests look for in their accommodations. Some hotels and manufacturers are already eager to serve the emerging demand for sustainable options. Design brands releases reusable hotel amenities made of sustainable materials. And yes, the brand is called Mio Organic. Let's find out more. A Japanese sustainable brand, Mio Organic, recently released reusable amenities made of green materials. The collection offers a set of cotton pads and organic bamboo swabs, an organic bamboo hair comb, a organic case, and 100% cotton tie string bag. Bamboo is a durable alternative resource to plastics and wood due to its carbon dioxide absorption ability. Additionally, bamboo plants grow much faster than usual trees, taking only 3 years to reach their full size. They require little water to grow naturally. The onsen ryokan Yuen Shinjuku, a traditional Japanese hotel in Tokyo, has already incorporated Miyo's organic amenities. Chiwin, a hotel in Kanazawa, and Good Nature Hotel Kyoto also use their amenities. These items can match the style of the hotel because Miyo Organic will customize amenities by embedding logos and designing original packaging. The unique and durable items like toothbrushes and combs make great souvenirs to take home and reuse even after the trip. Another Japanese brand, SAS Organic, has also launched a line of eco-friendly amenities. It currently includes corn-derived shower caps and a variety of bamboo products, including swabs, toothbrushes, combs, and razors. Including corn, the products that utilize plant biomass materials have less impact on the environment than conventional petroleum-based material. Broad appeal can lead us to a sustainable future. The new Plastic Resource Circulation Act has significant implications for our society. However, a sustainable future is less likely without willful support and clear benefits for all. If you are tired of disposable hotel amenities, lodging at facilities with reusable and environmentally friendly swag is likely to make your trips more satisfying and sustainable. The Japanese hotel industry has just begun offering these sustainable options, and we as guests can support the movement to positively influence their future decisions. Now, I travel around Japan, for work, and I would say 90% of the accommodations, probably now more than 90% of the accommodations are really unsustainable. They have not even moved into looking at sustainability. So amenities is gonna be it's still trying to catch up in that aspect. Even for Airbnb, Airbnb says it wants to be sustainable, but it doesn't push its customers to do sustainability, which is so pity because Airbnb can be a leader in such thing, but no, not yet. It's still a big gap that Japan and Japanese accommodation needs to overcome, and that's why it's great to know all these alternatives when we are in Japan, so that we can support these businesses who are making the effort to change. And if you can hear that, I'm in Nara Prefecture right now. Almost every night, ambulances. Coronavirus situation in Japan has popped. In a way, it has reached worse. The situation is worse than before. Right now, we're on the 6 waves, and deaths yesterday reached about 4,000 plus. Terrible thing. But yeah. And then we have the Ukraine conflict. The world is such a mess. But anyway, let's continue. Let's continue to our second article. Let's move on to our next article. Skincare. Okay. Now, this one we're talking about vegan skincare. 4 cruelty-free vegan skincare brands you can get in Japan. Veganism is gradually expanding in Japan. It is often associated with a diet that excludes all animal products. However, in recent years, more people are realizing that it is more than that, and vegan options are slowly increasing in various fields. For those who are looking for vegan beauty products, here are some vegan cosmetic brands that you can get in Japan. Now it's true that more people are demanding for, not only environmentally friendly, but also vegan. Now, I wouldn't say that there hasn't been before, because if you look online, there are forums, even for example Reddit. People do care about environments, and they actively search for such alternatives. And that's why I think I shared last week about the cosmetics. Oh, this is such a good time to delve into cosmetics, because you have more and more sustainable options. Anyway, let's continue with the first brand that we're gonna introduce. Unnaturally natural cares for both animals and skin health. I'm messing this up. Unnaturally Natural is a Japanese ethical skincare brand that aims for clean beauty. Based on the founder's skin problems caused by allergies, she has researched how each ingredient affects the skin as well as the environment. You can check here to see excluded ingredients in their products. Let's see what we have here. List of excluded ingredients. So yeah, we have the usual culprits. No preservatives. Talk about parabens, formaldehyde, sulfates, no ethanol, no silicone, no Vaseline, no coal tar. Yep, no aluminum chloride, and they are all animal friendly. This is one of the features of Japanese beauty products. Usually, there's a lot of natural ingredients, and that's why they are usually gentle for the skin. So if usually you have sensitive skin, you might be able to find a Japanese products that will be able to that you can use without worrying and aggravating your skin concerns. Continue. Yeah. Moreover, a naturally natural complies with Proposition 65 and also has obtained the vegan trademark. It is worth trying their products if you struggle to find skincare items that match your skin. Go on to the second brand. Ruhaku's products are entirely eco-cert certified and made with carefully selected natural ingredients. Here's how it looks. Ruhaku's greatest feature is its ingredients made in Okinawa Prefecture, such as shell ginger and Japanese flat lemon. All the products are EcoCert certified, which means over 95% of ingredients are natural, and at least 95% of the plants contained in the products are organic. Ruhaku also reduces the environmental impact of its packaging. They have made facial masks and a UV makeup-based cream, in addition to basic skincare products. You can start with their trial kit at a reasonable price to see if it matches your skin. By the way, all this is in the description. If you're interested, visit this article so that you can find the link to that, or you can ask Google Sensei. La Vie Stella strives to protect the environment through eco-friendly production methods. This is another Japanese brand. La Vie Stella has selected ingredients based on their environmental impact. For instance, they avoid palm oil, which is one of the biggest reasons for the destruction of rainforests. They also have introduced carbon neutral shipping by calculating carbon emissions with an app and compensating for them by contributing to rainforest conservation activities. Aside from basic skincare products, they have hair balm and other vegan brand products such as cleansing sheets and soaps on their online store. Beig has a wide range of products from skincare to body care. Yeah, this is Korean, if I'm not wrong. Yes, Beijing is a Korean vegan cosmetic brand that has recently become popular in Japan. They are committed to natural and fair trade ingredients. All their products contain ingredients derived from green coffee beans because they believe it keeps your skin healthy. They exclude synthetic fragrances, synthetic dyes, silicones, harsh sulfates, and parabens from all the products. Beijing offers a wide range of sustainable products, from skincare to body and hair care, catering especially to those whose skin is sensitive to synthetic additives. Yeah, so not everything is Japan. From Japan, we do introduce other brands from other countries too, because hey, you can get them in Japan. Why not? To conclude this article, to successfully incorporate some vegan practices or to go completely vegan, your feeling of comfort with each product is just as important as your ethical beliefs. These brands are conscious not only about your skin health but also about animal welfare. Choosing these types of brands is an effective way to boost your mood and the growth of vegan cosmetics markets in Japan. Okay. And for our third article, now it might look like this is the last article, but really this is our first page of a series of webinars reports. Now, we attended this last year, where Sustainable Business Hub, an organization based in Kyoto, is promoting sustainable practices that we can learn from Japanese culture. And this is one of the biggest things that Zenbird really wants to promote is when we study Japanese culture, we get hints of sustainability from human resource to being carbon neutral. So let me do a quick look at this. Japanese culture is a mixture of tradition and beauty, which still inspires wonder in many people today. Shrines embraced by nature, food that focuses on longevity, time-proven artistry that remains treasured today, memorable stories told by manga and anime. The list which binds the Japanese essence goes on. And it is finding another role in modern times. In this era of troubles, the climate crisis is the biggest threat the world faces. The World Economic Forum recently released their Global Risks Report 2022, ranking climate change as the top global risk. Biodiversity loss and extreme weather, including droughts and floods, are among some of the devastating threats to the world. But it's precisely because of crises like climate change that we need to revisit tradition and culture, especially Japanese culture. For centuries, the Japanese understanding of their relationship with nature has molded their philosophy and action to harmonize with their environment. They birthed concepts like mottainai and wabi-sabi, and have even created an original circular economy model, centuries before the world realized the model is a necessity. Sustainable Business Hub held a series of 4 webinars to explore 4 contemporary issues while revealing hints that Japanese culture can offer to solve. So there are these 4 webinars cover 4 different topics, which we'll talk here: sustainable human resource development and Japanese culture. While many businesses are shifting towards sustainability, the move away from traditional management strategies raise numerous concerns. One of them is human resource. There is a realization that the value of an individual needs to be treasured as the world makes changes in society, consumer behaviors, and lifestyle. Through looking at Japanese culture, the first webinar will visualize how sustainable human resources will look like in the future. This is actually very important because right now the world is, if we are talking about human resource, probably 2 main topics that comes to mind is one, circular economy. As we switch from, for example, if we switch from oil to renewables. We need to equip people who are in the oil industry to also work in the renewable sector. And that's one of the important things about human resource. We don't want to leave anyone behind. Remember, that's the motto of SDGs, of the Sustainable Development Goals, leaving no one behind. And the other thing we see a big trend, and it's proven, and that is businesses thrive better when they embrace diversity and inclusivity. So the more diverse your business is, the stronger, more resilient your business becomes. And that is one of the things. And there is clue from Japanese culture that we can tackle this with. The second webinar is called Carbon Neutrality and Japanese Culture. The world is in crisis over climate changes and resource utilization. Countries worldwide are exploring solutions that will address the carbon issue. It includes Japan, which declared to go carbon neutral by 2050. On the other hand, seeking carbon zero will require a significant change in our social structure and values. Perhaps we may not be looking for something new in our search for that change, but searching for something that we can adapt from ancient Japanese lifestyle. You know what? I think after this we'll look at carbon neutrality and see how Japanese culture, how Japanese society 400 years ago was actually carbon negative. Let's go a quick look at the other two so that we can go to the article as soon as possible. So the third seminar is actually circular economy and Japanese culture. Although it is still a new term for the masses, the circular economy is the latest trend in shifting businesses to become sustainable for the future. It takes the damaging linear economy and turns it into a circular flow of materials and resources to eliminate the error called waste. Now, in case you're not familiar with circular economy and linear economy, well, linear economy is what most of our economies are based on. We take from nature, we make things, and then we throw them away, we waste them. So that is the take, make, waste linear economy, and it is very devastating. So what circular economy really wants to do is we want to stop taking from nature, stop cutting down trees, stop burning fossil fuels, and we want to create zero waste. If we have waste in our system, there's something wrong with our system. So whatever resources we have, whatever materials that is being used, we want to keep reusing them. And that's why circular economy is so interesting, because there's a lot of technologies trying to make this economy work without hurting our environment and stop hurting society, people who make our things, our clothes, our handphones, and so forth. Okay, let me continue. With conviction, Japan can achieve a circular economy too. Yes, I have this conviction that Japan can achieve a circular economy too, because Japan has done it before. We know this because it has been done in Japan before. In this webinar, we will be inspired as we study the features of circular economy, a circular economy model perfected in the Edo period. I'd like to cover this too, but no, let's do carbon neutrality. And the last webinar, last but not least really, decentralized society and Japanese culture. Many festivals in Japan are centuries old, passed down from one generation to the next. Now when we talk about festivals, we're talking about matsuri, those Japanese festivals. However, it is also true that some of them are waning in popularity. It is then fortunate that Japan is beginning to explore the idea of decentralization, because the revitalization of matsuris, of these festivals, could also mean the building and solidification of a resilient community. By exploring Japanese society and its people, we can get hints on how we can transition from a metropolitan center to decentralized societies. This is another very interesting webinar. where we look at matsuris, where we look at festivals and how they actually strengthen a community. It's not just about entertainment, not about having fun, but it actually plays a key role, especially in rural Japan. Unfortunately, we won't be able to go through that. Let's go to this immediately. Oh, sorry, an app. Well, if you watched my stream last week, yeah, this is one of the browser app that I got, to tackle eco anxiety. Okay, yeah, carbon neutrality and Japanese culture. SBH refers to Sustainable Business Hub, which is I mentioned before, the organization in Kyoto promoting sustainability based on Japanese culture. Okay, let's do this. The climate the climate emergency is one of the biggest challenges the world has ever faced and demands immediate attention and action. Japan declaring net zero carbon by 2050 is a declaration not only to reduce carbon emissions, but also a dramatic change in societal values and system structures. Change will be an upheaval, but studying the history of Japanese culture hints that it is not a negative one. In this second session, Isao Kitabayashi from Sustainable Business Hub and Yu Kato from Hutch Inc. explore the intersection of carbon neutral and Japanese culture. We take a look at how climate change is affecting Japan, then how we can look into Japan's past to find answers to achieve carbon neutral status. Now, I mentioned Isao Kitabayashi. Kitabayashi, I met him about 2 years ago. Oh, now it's been 3. Now it's a new year. I met him about 3 years ago, and we were at this seminar. He was one of the speakers. He was just sitting behind me. I was like, what is he doing? Oh, he's preparing slides. And that was when he created the term circular economy, a circular economy that worked during the Edo period. Now, I really hope the term catches up, because it's such a simple term, but encompasses so much ideas and concepts from the Edo period. Now, the Edo period is about 400 years ago. What's unique about Edo period is when during Edo period, Japan closed itself to external influences. That means other people on the ships, they can't enter Japan. They could go to somewhere in Nagasaki, somewhere in the south, but the connection with the outside world was really limited, which means what? It means one, they had no imports. Japan had to survive on what it has, what it produced in the country itself. And second thing is, they didn't just survive. We're not talking about suffering on 1 pieces of 2 pieces of bread every day, but culture culture flourished, and while being a sustainable zero carbon society. Well, I wouldn't say carbon zero is not the right word, but carbon negative. Well, let's talk more and find out how. Climate change is here, and it's changing Japan too. Measuring the carbon dioxide and methane concentration in the atmosphere, we see an apparent linear increase between 1987 and 2019. And this correlates to the rise in average annual temperatures in Japan. In fact, there was a 1.24 degrees increase in temperature between 1898 and 2019. Global warming is already affecting Japan. What changes can Japan expect from climate change? Rising sea levels and flooding in cities, and the east side of Tokyo is a high-risk area. Infrastructures will come to a standstill. Heat waves bring heat strokes and health problems, decrease in food supply, loss of potable water, oceanic ecological collapse, and devastation to land ecologies. These are devastating and are already happening. This is very true. I was speaking to someone from Bahrain, and fisheries are always the first to know. If we compare like 10 years ago, the use of fishes have dropped more than 50%. Now, for a country that eats a lot of fish, it is a big problem, and probably one of the reasons why Japan cares so much about food waste. Okay, let's continue. We evolved from using the term global warming to climate emergency. In fact, we had 4 different terms to recognize the state of urgency. If we look at our carbon budget, we are fast running out of time on the carbon clock, and that's why you can see at the top of the screen, that's the climate clock. If you're interested in knowing more, yeah, do Google it out, because this is it shows how much time we have left until our carbon dioxide budget is depleted. And right now we have, oh wow, 7 days ago it was 150, maybe 6 days. So the timing is not linear. We are fast running out of time. Okay, continuing. Japan's response was, of course, to declare a target of a carbon neutral society by 2050, placing Japan on the carbon neutral track. Japan, the climate emergency, and decarbonization. Kato continues. As of last April. Sorry, I got to do this. We wrote this. When this event happened, it was this April. 2 months. Okay, we'll fix that. Continuing. Japan has announced to reduce 46% of its greenhouse gas emissions as of 2013. But this is after the Fukushima nuclear incident, where Japan shifted greatly from nuclear energy to coal energy in 2011. And that's 46% that they said is based on after the incident. And even the energy industry in Japan finds this number difficult to achieve. However, according to the climate tracker, Japan needs to increase their NDCs to at least 62% by 2030. And we cannot even say that is a high target. Furthermore, it is a difficult target for Japan. Now, there are other countries like, let's say, Britain and Germany, and their targets are actually double of Japan's, which is quite impressive, but it's still not enough. So in Japan's case, it is struggling, but it is working hard to find a solution. Okay, continuing. Remember, this is under the shadow of the 6th IPCC assessment report, which says that we will likely go past 1.5 degrees. Yeah, and this assessment report, there's a second part is coming soon, I believe. And they will be sharing, what kind of impact can we expect. It is not to scare us, but to prepare us for the risks. Continuing. Climate change is not just an environmental concern, but it's also a social issue. Climate justice and just transition movements remind us that rich countries are responsible for most of the greenhouse gas emissions, but it is the poor countries that pay the price. So, in the transition to decarbonize, it's important not to leave anyone behind. For example, what will happen to workers in the coal industry when the switch is made to renewable energy? There are positives in the transitions, but we must also address the minuses. Kato also reminds us of the urgency of climate refugees. This is a big issue. The worse the climate change becomes, the more people are losing their homes. Globally, it is becoming common sense that we can no longer treat environmental and social problems as separate. And that's why we have so much call for climate justice from Friday for Future Selves, Extinction Rebellion and so forth. It's because it is a problem now that's already happening and we need to tackle it. The obstacles in chasing after renewable energy. What's the problems? Decarbonization by switching to renewables is also problematic. For example, in Japan, irresponsible cleaving of mountain sites to install solar panels have brought about soil destabilization, resulting in landslides. So we have a lot of solar companies who are taking the challenge to build more solar panels, but they build along the side of these hills. So with the erratic weather, the soil gets loosened, and some of the companies do not know that they need to check, and so the soil, so there are landslides and the solar panels are destroyed. So that is some of the new problems that they have discovered and need to overcome. The destruction of the ecology when we remove trees, but these issues do not stop there. As Kato continues, as the adoption of solar energy expanded, the cost of solar panel production dropped. That's a good thing, but China's coal is a big reason for that drop. China is now the leading producer of solar panels globally, and it is coal energy that drives the cheap mass production of these panels. So to create this renewable machine, we are using coal to create them, and that is the problem here. The production is based on a linear production design, so solar panels are not as green as we like to believe. Why? Okay, according to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, every solar panel takes about 8 years for the utilized carbon to cycle back into the ground. Furthermore, solar panels are difficult to recycle. While plans to create a circular economy for solar panels are in the works, we will face a problem trying to recycle the current ones in 20 to 30 years time. So what are we talking about here? To create, like we mentioned about linear economy just now, right? So we take from nature, we make the things, and then we throw them away. And although we are creating solar panels for renewable energy, we are still using this linear economy to make solar panels. We're still using fossil fuels. We're using coal. We make them, and then how are we going to throw them? What will happen to them? We haven't discussed what to do with them, and it is a big issue that like Kato says, we will face a problem in 20 to 30 years time when the solar panels are no longer effective. We need to replace. So what do we do? Do we throw them? There's no more landfill, ocean fuels maybe, and that's a very big issue. Furthermore, if we look at the world's total emissions, addressing energy issues will only tackle 55% of total emissions. The remaining 45%, which comes from manufacturing, can be reduced through a circular economy. I don't want to go too deep into this, but if we look at global carbon emissions, if we switch from, right now we switch all to renewables, we will have only tackled 55% of global. Sorry, I can't increase the size of this image. It will only decrease 55% of total global carbon emissions. Rest of the 45 is in the way we create products. So imagine a car, right? Okay, we want the fuel of the car to be renewable, but what about the frame of the car? What about the glass? What about the headlights? What about the rubber tires? They are somehow made, and during the making of them actually produces carbon emissions, and we are not talking about that, which is a worrying trend right now. And this is where it becomes interesting. Is carbon the villain? Decarbonization through understanding carbon cycles. Now a lot of people don't like plastic. A lot of people don't like carbon. But let's tackle carbon. So is carbon really the bad guy here? Is it the villain here? According to William McDonough in his column, carbon is not the enemy. Climate change is the failure in designing a proper carbon cycle. That we've put carbon into the atmosphere in the wrong place, at the wrong dose, for the wrong duration. We see one example of the carbon cycle in the cycle of life. Plants extract carbon dioxide and turn them into carbohydrates through water and photosynthesis, right? And when animals feed on the carbohydrates, They are broken down into carbon dioxide by bacteria when they pass away. This makes us think about the becoming beings in terms of carbon cycle. Similarly, our bodies return to the ground. We become elements necessary for plants. We can even say that it's our rebirth, which blurs the definition of death. This is something that science cannot answer, but the space in between the definitions will be essential. So we are thinking, carbon is not the enemy. It's just that we've been, for example, if we talk about fossil fuels, we've been burning them. They should be in the ground, but we are releasing it into the air. That carbon cycle, meaning when will the carbon go back into the ground, it takes a longer time. So we have broken that carbon cycle. So carbon is not the enemy. It's us that is the problem, that we're putting too much into the air. We need to put it back into the ground where it can turn into plants. And what Kato here says is, we can say it's our rebirth. What are we made of? We are made of, again, carbon. One of the elements in our body is carbon. So really, if we die and go back into Earth, have we really died? Is aren't part of us going back into nature? Continuing. Sustainability is sometimes seen as human beings exerting an external force on nature. On the other hand, when we talk about regenerative systems within a circular economy, human beings are an irremovable part of nature that works from within the whole. So what sometimes we think, nature is a different. We talk about man and nature. They're two separate beings. But if we look into Japanese culture, where actually, Japanese always know that, not Japanese today probably, but if we're talking about Edo period, 1,000 years ago even, people know that they are part of nature and we got to take care of each other. If not, both of us suffer. It's the whole system. While the world is beginning to call this relationship regeneration, the concept already exists in the Japanese culture. So it's something like this. Instead of a two-part, humans are being part of the whole here. Okay, let's continue. Oh dear. Oh, sorry. I realized the climate clock isn't moving. Okay. Let me fix that. Okay, it's back on. Oh dear. Yeah, sorry for that. I'm working on a minimal setup for streaming. As I say, I travel around Japan. I can't afford excesses. Really, like extra screen to make sure everything is going on correctly. So you have to make do with this. Continuing. The essential prongs for decarbonization. So what do we need for decarbonization? The way to think about decarbonization is simple. When we look at things from the carbon cycle, we can start by ending the release of carbon dioxide in fossil fuels from the ground into the air. We should shift everything to renewable energy. Really, we just need to stop burning fossil fuels. Really, we don't need it. Well, right now we do, but that's why the race for renewable energy is such a big topic right now. And that's why COP26 is trying their best to tell everyone, stop using coal. Okay, anyway, it's going to turn into a rant if I continue. Next, we should introduce regenerative farming by maximizing the role of carbon dioxide. In the same thread, we should protect our forests as the most effective organism to capture and hold carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, where we can call it green carbon. We also want to protect the oceanic ecosystems through blue carbon. Now, what is trying to say here is we need plants to absorb carbon. This is where carbon sequestration is another method we want to use, extracting the excess carbon dioxide in the air and storing it, like using direct carbon capture technologies, and of course the use of circular economy to achieve zero waste. So we want zero waste too, and we want to turn all those carbon into plants. And it is so unfortunate that Amazon is burning, is being cut down by greed. In Canada too, it is a big issue because big money is still thinking in terms of profits. And I really question the morality behind it. To restore the carbon cycle, we need each of these steps to restore the carbon cycle. A concrete example will be planting trees. When we plant trees, they go through a cycle of wither and regrowth. And as we maintain the forest, like through utilization and thinning, there is a growth in soil organic matter, which also stores carbon dioxide. Of course, reforestation must be carried out the proper way for it to work. I think we'll be talking about that later, about how trees are important for that carbon cycle to work. And sometimes people are not too sure why we are cutting trees, why we are thinning trees when we need trees. I think it will be explained later. So let's take things step by step. Oh, let me get some water. Good old Tumblr served me for so many years. Okay, continuing. Now we go into our content proper, where we look at Japanese culture. Hints from Japan to consume within our means. The largest hint of sustainability and decarbonization lies in Japan's Edo period, between 1603 and 1867. Kitabayashi shows us one of these features in the population numbers in the centuries. So Kitabayashi says, looking at the later half of Edo period, population growth stabilized. So if you look at the population chart here, this red box here represents the Edo period. You see the population raised well in the first half, then it flattened out. Although the fields developed for agriculture in Japan, the land for fields, land for agriculture, there was a realization that developing beyond threshold will require more resources from nature than sustainability possible. Therefore, as a closed country, the population of Japan during the Edo period maintained at around 33 million for about a century. The later half is more than a century. Japan was closed for more than 200 years. If we calculate the economic growth rate, it is estimated to be 0.3% per year. And this is important. Why? When we talk about GDP, we always want to talk about an increase. But in Japan, in ancient Japan, we see a 0.3%, and the country survived by itself. There was no problem. Cultures flourished. And this is one of the key things we didn't talk here, but this is one of the concepts of degrowth. We stop linking growth with making more things, making more money. Continuing, looking deeper into the economy, resources mainly consist of organic matter that could be renewed in 1 or 2 years. They will eventually be used as fertilizers at the end. So, for example, using bamboo, we can create bamboo baskets that can last for decades. But it just takes bamboo 2 months to grow to its full size. So you see, using versus the renewability of the resource. There's such a huge resource. And eventually they will be used as fertilizers. Yeah, when they broke down, they can no longer be repaired. Japan used to have a repair culture. So when they cannot be repaired, they actually burn down, maybe turn to charcoal and used for fertilizers, going back into the ground, putting carbon back into the ground. Energy sources. during ancient Japan in Edo period, included solar, wind, hydro, and heat, which focus away from plant sources. So we don't really need biomass. There are so many. They found ways to utilize other elements. Of course, solar energy doesn't mean the use of solar panels. The Japanese have a saying, overcoming autumn and winter with the sun of spring and summer. It was the norm for society to create during the warmer months, like food produced for use in the cold. High ratio of durability to renewability, maximized through motainai. The motainai spirit, motainai means the dislike for creating waste of the Japanese, meant that the resources were also maximized to their fullest potential, which often meant using every part of the resource. This led to Edo society to develop 5Rs plus U. Now we are familiar with 3Rs: reduce, reuse, and recycle. In Edo society 400 years ago, we have 5Rs and plus 1U, which is reduce, repair, reuse, recycle, and return. And then for U, we have upcycle, where the focus was to extend the lifespan of the gifts from nature. The resource renewability rate to the length of usage is also astounding. The kozo plant, which is used to create washi or Japanese paper, takes a year to grow, yet the washi is durable and can last for a millennia with careful use. Another example is the bamboo, which takes a month or two to grow and is often used as craftsman for its decades of durability. So there's a high ratio of years of usage to years of production. It is in the Japanese culture to put such thought in their crafts. This is driven by the motainai spirit, developing techniques to maximize the use of limited resources. Beautifully too, no less. For example, how the Japanese approach lighting. The oil used mainly come from seeds, from orchid, sesame, and camellia. Candle wax came from wax trees. And these plants that grow fast can be harvested annually. The byproducts after extracting oil were then used as fertilizers. We find many similar examples too. Apart from producing rice as a staple food, the straw byproduct is also used in daily lives like shoes, bags, animal feed, buildings, as fertilizers and as fuel. Bamboo can be grown for food and use too. It is used in making tools, food wraps and boxes, containers, musical instruments, and weapons, even weapons. So bamboo has so much use. If we, how to say, bamboo was the plastic of the era. We didn't have plastic then, but plastic is so widely used today, and that is the case for bamboo. Bamboo was so widely used throughout Japan. Reeds are cut every year and burnt into ash to use as fertilizers. It is possible to stockpile for future use too. The yearly growth of reeds is an example of the cycle of carbon sequestration by the reeds. The industry worked within this carbon cycle. Living with trees, the world's best carbon sequestrator. Japan's forestry is an important discussion in Japan. Japan's trees has till recently been underutilized, even within the country. But the climate crisis and extreme weathers in Japan have brought more attention to the potential of wood in Japan. Kato says, recently, wooden architecture is getting attention in Japan. For example, Sumitomo Forestry and Heinz are collaborating to build a 15-story wooden office structure near Melbourne, Australia. Heinz is an Australian company, and there's a collaboration, you can say, between Japan and Australia. It has been headlines for goals of a net zero carbon building or even net negative. We are likely to see more of these examples in the future. And Japan doesn't need to go far to find more ways to use wood, as it is also embedded in Japanese culture. So Kitabayashi shares that the typical wooden Japanese home is an example of carbon fixation, as it hardly uses any inorganic compound, for example metal. So other than the clean, everything is built with natural materials. So if you look at this picture, this is the image you get from when we talk about a traditional Japanese house. And if you really think about it, everything is organic, or from trees, or from plants. Even when we're talking about putting the wood together, yes, involves zero nails, and makes Japan. That's why Japanese carpentry is such an interesting topic among people who work with wood. The Japanese then use their craftsmanship and knowledge to make living comfortable and build these homes beautifully. So we're not just talking about putting planks of wood together and that's all. No, there's some aesthetic to it, and that's the kind of work that that Japanese culture puts into it. If we're gonna build something, make it nice, that people can enjoy. Wood also played an essential role in Japan's iron industry. Japan's iron basically comes from iron sand. I think it's Shimane. I think it comes from Shimane Prefecture, somewhere above Shikoku. Sorry, it's pretty hard to describe if I don't have a map, but yeah, it's somewhere from Japan. So iron sand comes from there. And there was a balance between Japan's iron industry and the forest. So where does this relationship come from? So charcoal was essential for iron casting, and it burned at about 1,200 degrees. Iron's that's the so-called melting point of 1,200 degrees. Iron's melting point is also 1,200. So although the charcoal you can burn, and it doesn't really quite melt the iron, but it makes it malleable rather than melting the iron. And this is a special characteristic of Japan's iron industry, using and that's how closely linked was with wood. So Kitabayashi continues. The iron industry then required a whole mountain of trees, and they rotated the mountains to fell trees, while still working within the carbon cycle, which allows nature to return with more trees. One manifestation of this is the yakihata. When we translate directly, it's slash and burn, but it's not the slash and burn that is unsustainable. That's performed in the Shiba Mountain region in Miyazaki Prefecture, that is in Kyushu. So to clarify, the slash and burn does not refer to the rampant burning and felling of forests, for example, very often you find in Indonesia. In contrast, the one that's conducted in Kyushu in Shiba is small in scale. They use controlled fire on a rotation basis and allows the soil to re-nourish and trees to grow back, all without the need for fertilizers or chemicals. Yakihata is a circular agriculture that has minimal impact on the ecosystem while restoring the wealth of the forest. The process is documented in a video. So this is actually a promotional video created to show how interesting this tradition is in Shiba. I don't think I can play the whole video, but I can show you screenshots to show how it looks like. So you can see this is a part where they already cut it down, and they don't cut mass, they just cut a portion of it. And you can see they spread it out because they're gonna burn it and cut it down into turn into charcoal, so that it becomes fertilizers for the ground to grow new trees. And before they do that, there's this guy that prays to the gods. Well, gods is an interesting term in Japan. Not really, this is mystic figure, but more of like, thank you, nature, for the gifts you have given us. It's a respect for nature. And often people think Shinto is a religion. No, Shinto is more like, a gratitude to nature. And the people around will join in the ceremony, and they start burning it, but not mass burning, but enough to turn all this wood into charcoal. And after it settles down, you see all this actually turn into fertilizers, and you can see this is just a small part of what they needed. The resource that's needed. They don't cut more than was enough. And when we have charcoal, all you need is rain. So they are planting seeds here, and just nice. It was raining, and with rain, with sun comes growth of plants. And you can see, this is the new growth. So we can see this cycle. They cut down, but they don't, they abandon it. They make sure to restore the soil, and that is where restoration, the term restoration comes in. Okay, I don't think I explained why the reason why we need to cut down trees when they get too old is because trees are exceptionally good at absorbing carbon dioxide when they are young and they are growing into their adult stage. But once they reach maybe like 70 years old, some trees maybe at 50 years old, 60 years old, depending on the tree type, they become less effective in absorbing carbon. So if we talk about doing this slash and burn, we are cutting down really, really old trees and then using the material for somewhere else, and turn the rest into fertilizers for the soil to regrow. And then we are renewing the absorption of carbon dioxide. Continuing with the article, Japan's route to decarbonization. The next question, of course, is how Japan can make that transition. What are the essential values that we should treasure on the march towards decarbonization, and what about tangible actions? So we know that Japan used to be carbon neutral, carbon negative. What about now? Can Japan go back to that? Kato shares, carbon pricing and carbon credits may not be effective solutions. It's good that we can reduce emissions, but we can't really tell if, for example, someone reports the numbers. You can actually fix them with clever accounting. It questions whether if we really need the problem in the bud. Even if we can cut half the carbon emissions, an economy with twice the activity will still emit the same amount of carbon dioxide. So let's say we can cut half our carbon emissions, and then let's say our economy grow twice the amount that we have today. We're going back to the same problem. We are still emitting the same amount of carbon dioxide. So the question is, how do we shift the mindsets of countries like Japan to bring about fundamental changes? Perhaps we should decouple economic growth like during the Edo period. That is the consensus of many in Europe. Then Kitabayashi continues. When Japan closed itself to the world, it had to develop its culture based on what was available within the country. Following that, the wabi-sabi culture, popularized by Sen no Rikyu, birthed an economy and raised life satisfaction. Sure, economic wealth is important, but the concept of beauty is valued. So when Sen no Rikyu came in, there was a shift between, we love the elegance, it has to be stylish, instead to appreciating simpleness. And Sen no Rikyu was a perfect example of how major influences can create a change, not just in society, really, across the country. You can call this an innovation of the heart, which is an essence in Japanese culture. So Kitabayashi gives an example. Originally, rice wine was created to offer to the gods in appreciation of the rice they have received. and the farmers continually improved the quality of the rice wine. Of course, they drank the rice wine after that, but the starting point was appreciation towards nature, creating the rice wine for nature. And then after that, entertainment was a side benefit. Unfortunately, these days, entertainment value is prioritized, and with it, we have forgotten about the environment. So we can, reverse that mindset, and that's how we can go back to the days of the old. Decarbonization in the city. Cities can be sustainable too. It is easy to think that cities are undesirable because of their lack of sustainability, especially of Japan's consumption society. But that thinking needs a shift because we can make cities sustainable. Kato shares, we don't need to think that we can only live sustainably in rural areas. City living activities can include growing your own vegetables and herbs, paying attention to food loss, food waste, and composting. You can make a switch to renewable energy companies. Instead of keeping your money with mega banks, you can keep it with an internet bank. Your shopping behaviors count too, like refusing plastic bags and shopping at a bulk store. It is unlikely everyone will move into rural areas, as humans will naturally choose to move towards convenience. So how can we create a sustainable regenerative city? Well, growing a city that uses carbon, like utilizing wooden architecture. We can also promote a sharing economy, especially how cities tend to divide people, which promotes mass production to meet mass demand. There are ways to achieve urban sustainability and urban well-being. So I hope that gives us a good insight into how the old Japanese society 400 years ago, and even before that, I argue that it can be 1,000 years ago and even more, how they were sustainable because they really cherished, they understood the relation with nature. You don't destroy nature, and which will in turn destroy human beings, because they are one and the whole. They are one and the same of the whole system. All right. Okay. This session went really longer than I thought. Well, I hope today's session was useful. That we learned something, and there is hope. Every time when I think about this, there is hope, but we need a shift in mentality. We need to recognize that we need a change in a change in the systems. No more linear economy. We have to adopt a circular economy. Even circular economy may not be perfect right now, but it's gonna buy us more time on the carbon carbon budget. And I really hope next time we see this clock, there's more days than less. Okay, right. And this is where our stream ends. I think I'll be loading up my Reddit and see what's the situation in Ukraine. That's one of the most worrying issues right now I have. And tomorrow I'm actually meeting Sado Sensei, tea ceremony teacher, and maybe we might be able to do some event today together. I'll keep that in post. I'll keep everyone updated on it. Hopefully we can do something fun together. All right, take care. This is the weekend. Recharge yourself. Although the world is suffering somewhere, but I think it's a good time to remind ourselves to appreciate what we have right now. Although Ukraine is suffering right now, we must carry on in somehow, in a sense, in their name, to cherish what we have and how fragile peace can be if we don't protect it. See you when I see you next week.